Hello, this is David Taylor at Web Design Academy, and in this video I want to talk about the differences between an HTML website and a website built in WordPress. Now, for a lot of people who are venturing into web design for the first time, HTML is the place that they start. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and in the early days of the internet, and still today to an extent, and a lot of websites are built in HTML. And what you're looking at on the screen at the moment is a simple piece of content built in HTML, and I'm looking at it through a simple HTML editor. So you're not looking at this online, it's actually offline, and there are two tabs at the top here. One is the browser tab, which is the view you can see now, and if I switch to the code tab, what you'll see is all of the HTML code. If I scroll down, all of this code that creates this front-end web page. So if I go back to the code for a minute, what this code is doing is giving instructions to the browser. Here, this is the browser, giving instructions to the browser on what to display and how to display it. So for example, if I go to the browser view, you've got a blue solid line at the top with white writing, so there's code to tell it to do that. There's a graphic here at the top which it's pulling in and displaying, so there's code to tell it to pull that graphic in. There's a headline here of a certain size and color, so the HTML is telling it to do that, and so on, and then there's a button, call to action, and so on and so on. So all of this code that you can see is telling the browser what to display and how to display it. And for most people who are setting out on learning how to build websites, this is the way they do it, and this is how I did it, by learning the basics of HTML. And there's a lot of perfectly good tutorial stuff online, free stuff, that will tell you how to start learning HTML. However, we don't recommend that you do that, because we recommend that you start building websites from scratch in WordPress, and there are a number of reasons to do that. The first reason is that it's a lot quicker to learn. The second reason is that you can start producing pro quality results in a very short space of time compared with learning HTML. The third reason is that there are thousands of plugins available for WordPress that will add really cool functionality to your websites that it would literally take you forever to learn if you were doing it in HTML. However, it's still worth understanding what HTML is and how it differs from WordPress. Now, WordPress uses HTML, but it also uses PHP, which is another programming language, to combine into creating a website. However, there is an essential difference. Now, if we just go back to the code view of HTML for a moment, what you'll see is that all the code required to display the elements on the browser here are contained in the back end of the page. So if you go to a web page that's built in HTML, you hover over the narrative text like this, and then you right click and go to view source here, what you'll see is the HTML coding that is the source code creating what you're seeing on the browser. Now, WordPress works in a different way. So what I've got here is I'm logged into the web server, and for a particular website that is built in WordPress, and on the right hand panel here, what you're seeing where the cursor is now is all the files that are associated with this website. But the essential difference is that none of these files contain the content that is displayed on the browser, i.e. the front end of the website as it's viewed by the public. The content is actually contained somewhere else, not in these files that are sat on the server. The content of the website, so if I just go back to the HTML view for a minute. Content being the words, the headings, the graphics, and so on. They are contained in what's called an MySQL database. Now, the easiest way to think of that is as a bucket, and in the bucket is all of the text, the headings, the graphics, and so on, all the elements that make up the pages of a website. They're all contained in this bucket, and the bucket is not in this list of files here. This list of files does a range of other functions to do with the website. But the content of the website, the content of the pages, are contained in the database, which I am calling the bucket. Now, what happens is that when somebody requests a page from a website that's built in, in WordPress, let's imagine this one is. If I requested another page from this website, what would happen is that, if you like, an invisible hand reaches into the bucket, i.e. the database, pulls out the content elements that are required for that particular page and displays them on the browser. So unlike HTML, where the code is permanently sat here behind the page, ready to display, in the case of WordPress websites, that coding is not permanently sat behind the page. It is sat with all the other elements of content in the bucket database, waiting to be called upon. And when it's called upon by the browser, the hand pulls all the elements that are required for that page out of the database bucket excuse me, and displays it on the browser. So it might look the same ultimately as an HTML web page, but it's operating in a very different way. And there are a number of reasons why this approach, which is called a dynamic website, a number of advantages that it has over a static HTML website, which is basically where the code is static and sat behind the page all of the time. So in simple terms, that is the difference between a static HTML web page and a dynamic WordPress web page. Of course, you'll find out more about the detail and how that works if you come to our 2-day course. More details on our website at webdesignacademy.co.uk. Thanks for watching.